It's 7 p.m. on a Saturday night, Saturday, July 9th, from the quasi worldwide headquarters of YAA in Ventnor, New Jersey, and Bethesda, Maryland. This is, well, Saturday night with Zach and Ray. And I got to tell you, Zach, I kind of miss doing this for the last 4 weeks. It is so good to be back with you on a Saturday evening, even though we had a lovely Saturday evening last Saturday.
Yeah, buddy.
Let us dive right in, Pops. Thank you to everyone welcoming us back. We really appreciate it. Shannon's here with us. Maria says, is it actually bursting? Ray thanks us for the helpful videos. Pops.
Yes.
We're going to dive right into things, okay? We have some incredible data. Now, the reason we're even doing tonight's stream, the reason we titled it the way we titled it, is because there are a lot of YouTube videos over the past week talking about the bubble bursting. All right.
Yeah.
One of them was precipitated by this article that's in Barron's. Car repos are exploding. That's a bad omen. Now, I got to say that, and I love digging into the data. There is no data in this article. No offense to Lisa Balefus. She actually interviewed another YouTuber, a man named Lucky Lopez.
Yes.
Lucky, for a little bit of time. Automotive Life is his channel. It's interesting that there's literally no data in here. Like they have a chart of car prices as if you didn't know that car prices were out of whack. There's no data. So what do we do here, Dad, at YAA? We dig a little deeper, just a little deeper, right?
Wait. It's not what do we do? It's what do you do? I ain't digging. I'm quasi-retired, buddy. I am semi-retired, and I just do this. Oh my God, it's Kimberly Klein, the F&I goddess herself, on the live stream. Hello, Kimberly.
Indeed, we are going to give you the data because the data is what can help us all make informed decisions. Dad, let me share with you the data.
Yes.
How about that? Let's go to the big credit bureaus, the credit unions, excuse me.
Yes.
We're going to look first at a report from Experian. Okay.
Yes.
Experian puts out data on auto loan delinquency rates, as does TransUnion. Now, this is showing you data from 2019 and Q3 of 2020 and Q4 of 2020. Pops, the percentage of auto loans that were behind payments between 30 and 59 days in 2019 was 2.11%. Okay. That went down.
But do you think that had the reason that it was as elevated as it was because of the onset of COVID?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly.
Probably. Yeah.
Now, Dad, you've got 1.56% in Q3 of 2020 and Q4 of 2020, 1.75%. Okay.
Yes. So it started to go up. Yeah.
Yep. Percentage of accounts in delinquency 60 to 89 days or behind payment 60 to 89 days, 0.65, 0.51, 0.60. Percent of accounts 90 to 180 days behind, 0.33, 0.36, 0.37. Okay. Can you kind of keep a ballpark of what these numbers are in your head? Maybe we'll call it 2%, 0.5%, 1/3%. Sound good?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. 2, 1/2, 1/3.
Okay.
I'm going to write this. I'm going to write this down. Yeah.
Please write it down. Please write it down.
Yeah.
Now, just the other day.
Yes.
A couple weeks ago, Experian puts out this report. DC southern states see highest rate of late auto payments. This is from June 24th. Now, nothing against Brian, but he should take some notes from us on how to create titles that get clicks because, Brian, you screwed this up, man. The data, what I'm about to show you, when you put it in comparison to what historic delinquency rates have been, Dad, it is astronomical what's happening. And Brian, knows, obviously, you're doing great work. We're going to scroll down. We're going to scroll past the graph.
We don't know Brian well enough to disparage him. So
no, Brian's probably a very, very.
I mean, it was great that he put all this together.
Pops.
Yes.
Experian ranked every single state. This is the best state in the United States right now, Utah, in terms of least amount of delinquencies.
Wow.
4.5%. 4.5% of auto loans in Utah are 30 plus days behind payment. 2.5%, 60 plus days. 1.8%, 90 plus days. We're just going to pause for a second right there.
Is that a pregnant pause or just a pause to think about?
Pause, Pops. That's the best state in our union right now in terms of delinquency rates.
Wow. Well, that's the best. If that's the best, which is like more than 2 times higher than what Experian says, I hate to see what the worst is. And did you notice what the payments were? the payments were below what the national average is at the moment.
They were indeed. Let's pull up
Yes.
that. Let's go through the list. Okay.
Yes.
Let's make our way down here. North Dakota, second best state in terms of delinquencies. 4.6%, 2.4%, 1.6. South Dakota. If you stick with us for 2 hours, by the way, folks, we will get to the bottom of this list. So that's
I think we'll get to the bottom sooner than that.
oh, Dara's calling me. Oh, sorry, Dara.
Oh,
Can't take your
yeah.
phone call right now.
Yeah, we're busy.
South Dakota, Idaho, Wyoming. Let's go to the top 10. Well, the bottom 10.
Yeah.
New York State debt. 10.1% of auto loans in New York State are 30 days or more behind on payments.
Wow. And that's when they say 30 plus, that's 30 to 59 days.
I'm not sure. They didn't make that clear in this. I'm interpreting that as 30 plus, including the 8.5% that are 60% or 60 days behind and 90 days behind.
Okay.
I think it's aggregate. They didn't make that.
Okay. Let's say it's aggregate. Even that is staggering.
10.1%. What was it before, Dad? What was it before?
Well,
Back in-
we rounded it up to 2%, but it was really 1.75.
Let's get a few votes in the chat. Mark's saying his vote for number 1 on the list is going to be Florida.
Yes.
James wants to see California. Let's get some bets in the not bets because this is
Oh my God! Did you see that? Glenn Davis says it's so busy at the Benz dealership he's watching our live stream.
Glenn Davis is a family friend. I used to grow up around Glenn. It's so awesome that you're here, Glenn. That's awesome.
we used to go to the Cardinals games with Glenn.
Joe says Maryland. William says California. Curtis says Michigan. Again, we want to pull it back up here. Russell says, how does this compare to historical norms? We just had that up on the screen a second ago, Dad. The average 30 to 59 day delinquency rate for auto loans was 1.75%. And
Yes.
even if we did, Dad, even if we added the other two, that'd be another point.
That was 1/3 and a half. So call it, 3/4 of a point.
Let's round everything up. We're saying
Call it a point.
Norm. Yeah, historical norm is 2.5% to 3% of auto loans are in delinquency over 30 days without payment. Right now in New York, 10% of auto loans. Lots of votes for California.
Yeah.
Nevada, number 2, Colorado. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was going to say people are going to be surprised, but keep going. Come on. Let's go down the list.
All right. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Hawaii, 10.3%.
Okay.
North Carolina, 10.3%. South Carolina, 10.5%. Maryland,
we're
10.6%.
right up there. Yeah.
Alabama, 11.4%.
Wow.
Which, Dad, now that we're looking at this, do the math. 6.7 plus 5.0, what's that add up to?
That's 11.7.
So this is not aggregate. This is 11.4% or 30 to 59 days.
Wow. Repo Man's going to be busy.
Georgia, 12.1%. We're in our top 5 now.
Yeah.
I think this is the Sports Center top 10, except this is quite sad. Louisiana, Dad, number 3 at 12.8.
Oh my God. Mississippi
at 15.1%.
Are 30 plus days, 30 to 59 days currently delinquent or late on their car payment.
So let's add this all up. So 8.7 plus 6.2.
That would be like 14.9.
You've got 30% of loans in the state of Mississippi are currently some form of late.
Wow. And here's the worst part, ladies and gentlemen. Right where my son is broadcasting from, that is the area of the country that, has the worst.
So let's scroll down. Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. It's not even close, folks. 23.4% of auto loans in D.C., the District of Columbia, are 30 to 59 days behind payment. 14.7 are 60 to 89 days past due. And 11.3% of auto loans in Washington, D.C. are 93 months plus due. That is
Yeah.
What?
And you know what's even scarier?
That
Typically lease payments are less than loan payments, and in the city of Washington D.C., the lease payments are higher, which means that there's more people leasing higher end cars and putting less money down to do it uh, than can really afford to be doing it. But it's America. What can I tell you?
I'm ringing the alarm bell, man. 49.4% of auto loans in Washington, D.C. are currently behind. Dad, if you were a betting man, I would
Yeah.
be putting money on the repo man is going to be making a heck of a lot of money over the next 6 months. This is
Uh,
insane.
I might invest money into a flatbed.
Yes. Yes. I mean,
Oh my
yes,
God.
like Andrew, I actually don't know if we can effectively communicate this well enough. This
Yes.
is why, no offense again to Brian, the gentleman at Experian who wrote that article. Like, why was your headline not 50% of auto loans in Washington, D.C. are delinquent?
Yeah. Oh my God. That's crazy. And hell, I thought just in Washington you'd go to the you'd go to the printing press and just go to the mint and ask for a few more dollars. They just hand them to you, tell them you need to make a car payment.
I'm in disbelief. And again, this was precipitated by I saw an influx of videos on YouTube talking about the bubble burst. You all know
Yeah.
me at this point. I love talking about the bubble burst. It makes for great content. Again, the Barron's article had zero data, literally zero data in it. You go and you do a little bit of digging and you can piece together what's really happening behind the scenes. What I was hoping you could do, Pops, what happens to repo cars? One of our most popular videos of all time was you explaining what happens to unsold new cars. Explain what happens to repo cars.
Well, here's the real dilemma for the banks, and this was from the article that had no data, but
1 second, Pops. 1 second. We got to hit this really quick. James says, Zach, you're misrepresenting the data. It's compounding. So it's 30 plus, 60 plus, which is inclusive of 30 plus. No, James, we literally just looked at this. I'll share with you an example because I thought that's what it was as well. I just want to pull this up on the screen. You add 14.7% of loans that are 60 days plus delinquent and 11.3. What's that add up to, Dad?
it's 26%.
So it can't be that 23.4% are 30 plus days delinquent and then 26% are it can't be. It can't be compounding. This is that range. This is the next range. This is the next range.
That's what it looks like to me. And what I was going to say was Lucky Lopez, who's a wholesaler, is what he is, and he's been in the car business for 20 years, and
I've
and
chatted
he
with
makes
Lucky before, Pops. Fine guy, nice guy.
yeah, and truth of the matter is that banks went crazy and they were lending way too much money on these overpriced vehicles, and the cars that are getting repoed are the 2020, 2021s that the banks really financed way too much on. And what happens to repossessed cars is ultimately wholesalers bid on them. Some wholesalers have connections at banks, and the bank will just allow that wholesaler to buy them. But typically, there's a bidding war, or the banks will send them to the auction so that they can, because they have a fiduciary responsibility to sell them for the most amount of money they can. Well, if they financed 140%, okay, and the vehicles recently got repossessed, they didn't get paid down very much. And most of these vehicles are bringing about 70% of what the loan amount was. So the banks are taking a bath, and I think taking a bath is being generous when I say that. I mean, there could be internal implosions for some of the lending practices that have gone on. And realistically, if let's say the car still has a balance due of $30,000, and say it sells at auction for 20,000, okay, there's a $10,000 difference. That difference legally is supposed to be paid for by the borrower, well, who couldn't make the car payments in the first place. But it's called a deficiency balance, and the borrower is on the
Wow.
hook for that, or
Wow.
until the bank writes it off totally, which is what's going to happen in most cases, because if the people couldn't make the car payment, they're certainly not going to make the deficiency balance payment, to be paying something out of pocket every month for something they can't even drive anymore. Um,
Wow.
so there's going to be huge loan write-offs for the banks. Now, I'm assuming that the banks can use that to lower their tax liabilities, because it'll go against profits. Um, but there's going to be billions, or maybe billions is an exaggeration, hundreds of millions of dollars of lost revenue, um, because these cars are so underwater.
The reason we can say bubble burst is because when we start to look at what's happening in the used car market, we have two new reports that have come out at exactly the same time. And then we're going to spend a little bit of attention to the chat. Black Book, which everyone by this point knows, we love to reference their data. We're seeing initial softening of the wholesale used car market. And that
Hmm.
is across all segments of vehicles for the first time in a long time, including subcompact and compact cars. So we're seeing wholesale values, the prices we're able to fetch at the auction, begin to decline. Imagine taking on a loan at 130% of book value. So
Yes.
you're paying 30 extra percent over what the actual value of the car is. Then it gets repossessed. Then it goes to the auction. You can't fetch as much for it. We're starting to see that in this data. And then Dad from Cox Automotive, I know they like to make it nice and tricky, but non-adjusted price change in June was down 1.8% compared to May. So yes, used car prices are still, look at this chart, used car prices are still sky high, but we're starting to see some softening, which means
Yes.
all those people who took out loans, all those people that took out loans who are now 30 plus days behind on payments, 60 plus days, 90 plus, to your point, Pops, deficiency, what they owe. Holy cow, man. I wish I could comprehend. This is huge. This is
And
huge.
Zach, if I may, the bank knows that once somebody falls 60 to 90 days behind on their car payment, they're never, and that's never with a capital N, they are never going to catch up. They know it. The bank knows it. And if they fall 90 days behind, well, you might as well just, get the repo guy on the line now and tell him to go find the car. Um, but banks probably want to delay these repossessions as long as they possibly can, because it will have an impact on their bottom lines. And at a certain point, federal regulators may look at this, much like they looked at how mortgages were dispensed in the early 2000s, and say, who's minded the story here? I mean, because at that time, if you could fog a mirror, you could get a mortgage, you could get a car loan, and pretty much we're getting back to those standards again today. And nobody is really regulating what the lenders are doing. There's no way that a lender should be lending 140 or 150% of the value of the vehicle. It doesn't make good sense. And when the banks do that, they're bailing the dealers out from having overpaid for the vehicles in the first place, and then allowing those dealers to then turn around and sell them for a sizable profit to the unsuspecting customer that is paying 50-60% more for the vehicle than it's truly worth.
Dad, I feel like you've watched The Big Short, obviously. It's a great movie.
Yes.
The '08 financial crisis, the
Yeah,
mortgage
I
crisis.
lived through it.
You lived through it, right?
Yeah.
Dad, it feels like we're gonna watch a movie about what we just broke down 5 years from now, because this has I'm just gonna pull up a couple of the comments in the chat. Daniel Lewis says 2008, hold my beer.
Yeah.
We're saying you said it right, Ray. It's going to be billions of dollars in losses for banks.
Yep.
That's just the car market, but RV and boat market is even worse. They've been approving loans on luxury RVs for upwards of 160% of
Oh my
LTV
God.
boats as well. Vela 6 says time to short the car market. I mean, this I don't know how else to ring the alarm bell. Like the repo man or woman, the repo person is going to
Yes.
be the first indication of softening and the bubble bursting. And I don't know what other data we can find that's going to help paint a more clear picture of what's happening right now.
And when that bubble bursts and when those banks start to absorb billions of dollars in losses, um, those banks that are, in the eyes of the federal government, too big to fail will be bailed out by you and me once again, where the American taxpayer will come forward because the federal government decided that they can't afford to allow these banks to go under, and they will print extra money so that they can hand them to the banks so that they can stay solvent. And then there'll be a tightening of credit for 3, 4, 5 years, and then everybody will fall asleep at the switch again, and everybody will start going crazy with credit and how easy it is to get again. And it's just a cycle that keeps repeating itself because we refuse to learn from history. We refuse to actually pay any attention to our past. So
Let's
we're
talk a little
doomed to
bit.
repeat it.
Let's talk a little bit, Dad. Happy Hippo. Thanks for being here with us. Do you have any idea of timing when this will happen? Fourth quarter this year, next year? Let's talk a little bit about the timing, Dad. So, when are vehicles going to get repossessed? And let's also bear this comment from Igor in mind. My friend owns a repo agency, and I believe I mentioned it before. Well, he can't even go repo boats and planes because his company is overwhelmed with repos for cars right now. So, let's talk a little bit, Dad. We've been waiting for 2 years for an influx of inventory in the
Yes.
auto market, especially on the
Yes.
used car side. Well, hell, actually, just in general, there's not enough new
Just in
cars.
general. Yeah.
There's no reason the average transaction price from last month should be north of $47,000 for a new car. That's because of the car shortage. What's the timing here? To Happy Hippo's question, what's the timing here for when we, if we're car buyers, should be looking into the market and saying, okay, now's a good time for me to be thinking about buying one of these used cars?
Well, as we see more and more repossessions hit the auctions, and we are starting to see that, um, that should be an opportunity for dealers to be able to buy more cars at a more reasonable price point. They shouldn't have to overpay to the extent that they have in the past. And repossessions typically aren't in as good a condition as other vehicles. So I would think, and this is just a guess, but I would think over the next 60 to 90 days, as we see more and more people fall further and further behind, banks are going to have to make a determination that, okay, it's time to actually start repossessing these vehicles and start sending them to the sale. And once we see an influx of cars at the sale, we will probably start seeing some decline in those wholesale values, which hopefully will be reflected as some decline in the retail values. And so I'm guessing 60 to 90 days. So that puts us what, September, October-ish. So the fourth quarter.
Yeah, fourth quarter. JWN196 says, are repos still clean titles? Great question.
Unless the damn thing was in an accident and declared a salvage title, yes, it's still a clean title. It won't. It might reflect on Carfax that it had been repossessed, but it doesn't impact the title.
Here we go from John. How do repos work? What happens to the balance that the previous owner has to pay? They probably never pay it. It's
Yeah,
unfortunate what happens.
I mean there is such a thing as a deficiency balance, but as I said before, if the people couldn't afford to make the payment for a car that they could drive, they sure as hell can't afford to make a payment for the deficiency balance on a car that they no longer even have the ability to drive because the bank took it back. So the money that would be considered the deficiency balance will ultimately be charged off and written off by the bank.
We've got a great question here from Tommy. Where can we find these repos to buy? I want to mention using the YAA car search as vehicle. Watch our weekly market updates because Black Book is going to have their finger on this like that. They're going to be telling us, hey, the auction lanes are getting full of repoed vehicles. Watch our video on the market updates and then use our car search. Use the free joinyaa.com car search. That's a great place to find vehicles. It might not say it was repoed or not, but it'll be when you see an influx of used cars, it's probably because it was
Yes.
repossessed.
Yes, and you know, as a consumer, these vehicles are offered at auction, okay, for dealers to bid on them, so that the bank can guarantee that they got the highest price for them that they could. Um, and those auctions are closed auctions in the sense that you have to be a dealer to be able to go in there and bid on them. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't have a friend who's a used car dealer or a wholesaler that would take you in as a guest. You could spy a repossession or some used car that you have an interest in, and you could encourage your friend, the wholesaler or used car dealer, to be the winning bid on that, so that you can be the one that buys it. But other than that, the general public can't just go in there and say, "Okay, I'd like to bid on that car." It doesn't work like that.
Pops, let's go to the chat for a couple minutes here. At the half hour, we're going to actually be making a phone call out. We may open up the phone lines for people to call in tonight, but we are making a phone call out. We have, how would you describe the story that we're going to cover in about 5 minutes?
Sad,
Yeah, a public
troubling.
announcement of sorts.
Yeah, troubling.
Troubling. Brandon,
Yeah.
thank you for the thoughtful contribution. What about the luxury exotic car market? Do you see a dip in it, or 5 or 6-year-old old exotics coming back to MSRP where they were 18 months ago? Do we have any read on the exotic market, Pops?
I really don't. I will say this, that according to Lucky Lopez, a number of the vehicles that have been repossessed recently have been Bentleys, McLarens, and things like that, that people used uh, PPP money from the government to buy. And then, well, once that money dried up, they couldn't make the payments or didn't make any payments. So, exotics. I'm not an exotic guy. I don't really understand that world to any great degree. They're exotic for a reason, and there's a limited amount of them, and a growing number of people that have an interest in it. So if you have more people that are interested and a limited supply, I don't think those prices are coming down anytime soon.
We've got Jay Nagamy. Thank you for the thoughtful contribution and the super.
Oh, so it's a super sticker. So I got to go like this. Woo!
I miss
Sorry.
these, man. They don't
Yeah.
turn the AC on here though at the WeWork.
Yeah.
And holy heck, man, I'm gonna have to grab more ice. I'm very warm right now.
Well, either that or you're going to have to get yourself a fan.
Yeah, actually, a fan would be helpful. Rhyme Time UK, thank you for the contribution. Great public service, gentlemen. Really valuable info here.
Thank you.
That's the least we
Thank you
can
very
do.
much.
Least we can do. Oh wow, Pops. Mark, thank you for the thoughtful contribution, Mark.
Thank you,
Mark's been
Mark.
with us for probably the 2 years that we've been doing this, Dad.
Yeah. Well, some people just don't know better.
Yeah. Oh wow, look at this from Tyler. A Chevy dealer in my town is leasing used cars, and people are doing it. Have you guys heard of this before?
Oh, I've heard of leasing used cars in the past, and typically used cars don't lease very well. But it just proves the old axiom that there's an ass for every seat, and a fool and his money will soon be parted. So, yeah, leasing used cars is not the way to go.
It really is. It Pops. I forgot, and I actually just tossed it up at the bottom of the screen. I want to mention we haven't been able to sell our vehicle service contract extended warranty in California for almost like a year and a half now. It took me 6 months to pass the Maryland insurance producer exam, and then like 6 more months to get approved by the state of California. We can now finally sell in California. Our markup is a flat $400 if you email us your VIN to mbi@joinyaa.com. We'll get you a quote. You can't quote them on the website quite yet. If you email us, we can get you set up starting Monday. We're also doing a promotion, $150 off. So our margin on that's $250. Going to run between July 11th, so Monday, to the end of the month. So please, 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 if you're in California and you're holding on to a car, that is $250 markup on an extended warranty. I don't know if you can get a better deal anywhere.
May I make a suggestion, and you can shoot me if you had a gun in the middle of it, but I don't think that we should ask people in the other 49 states and the District of Columbia to spend to give us $100 more profit than the folks in California do. So I think moving forward that the spread should only be $400 on vehicle service contracts.
Okay, so in the state of California, I'm getting some text messages. In the state of California, you have to file how much your markup is going to be.
No,
The
I
options
understand.
they had were $400 or $1,400. So we chose
Yes.
the $100 one. But then we have the option in all the other states. So I will talk to council, aka you,
Yes.
after the show to figure out.
I know it was so unfair of me to do that to you, and I apologize up front. But that's just the kind of guy I am.
Pops, let's give Josh a call.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So can you cue this up while I'm giving him a dial?
Okay. Well, Josh is a member of our community who recently, I believe it was on June 27th, bought a new Jeep Grand Wagoneer. I believe the vehicle was about, I don't know, $114,000. And a day or two later, he packed up the Jeep Wagoneer with his family and all their stuff so that he could drive off to Oklahoma for a lake vacation in Oklahoma. And then suddenly, it wouldn't accelerate properly. There was a lot of noise coming out of the rear, and well, it broke down. And it broke down to the point that it was towed to a Dodge dealer. And I hope everybody's sitting down. It is in need of $30,000+ in warranty work on a vehicle that has, I don't know, maybe 600-700 miles on it. The rear differential was bad. There was on the right side, there's just all kinds of drivetrain issues with it. And so he's been having conversations with the dealers that are involved and with Stellantis.
Let me call him in. Let me patch him in. Everyone, please let me know in the chat how audio sounds once he's in here. Stay tuned.
Yeah, no, we're all waiting with bated breath.
Hey, Zach.
Hey, Josh, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
And Josh, this is Ray. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ray.
Oh my God, this is a wonderful thing. This is technology that well, it's a phone really, but it's technology that works. I'm so thankful for that.
I know. I'm glad we have Zach to put it all together and make all the phone calls work right.
Well, he was scrambling right before showtime to make it happen.
Josh, we just queued up your story and what happened. Thanks for being a part of our community and being a part of YAA. Share with us what's going on and what recourse you've found thus far. Again, this is a brand new car. You were just mentioning it pops 600 miles on it. It has $30,000 worth of warranty work. Share with us what's going on, Josh.
Well, do you want to hear a little bit about the beginning of it, or just
please share the
now?
story? Share the story.
Okay, so yeah, purchased it on Monday, the 27th in the morning, around noon. We packed up the car, headed out, pit stopped in Kansas for the night, and then headed out again on Tuesday towards our destination in Oklahoma. And so this is about, the car has been driven for less than 24 hours, and it has maybe 500 miles on it. I was driving on the highway at highway speeds, and I would try to hit the accelerator, and it would just rev out like it wasn't even in a gear, even though the car was still going at the same speed, that, as if it felt like you were in gear. So that happened once, and then it just seemed odd for a minute. I let it go, and it happened again in about a half an hour, and then it happened 4 or 5 more times over the course of the next 2 hours. So then we stopped for gas. This is about 4 o'clock on Tuesday, the day after I bought it. And then as I would hit the gas with any amount of acceleration, the car would just start kicking to the right, as if all the power was going to one wheel. So it seemed odd for a minute. I wasn't about to try to, if it was manageable, so I got on the highway, But anytime I hit the gas, I mean, if I hit the gas hard, the car probably would have or could have flipped.
Wow.
I was just being extremely careful and just basically coasting to try to get to where we were going. So then I thought maybe it was drivetrain transmission. So I looked up the closest Dodge Jeep dealer, gave them a call, spoke to the manager of the service department, Antonio. I asked them if they could, maybe if I stopped in, if they could reprogram it really quick. Thought maybe that might have been the issue. So he said, sure. I said, I'll be there in about an hour and a half. Literally like 2 minutes after I hang up the phone with him, sounds like the car just like fell out of itself. Like I was dragging a train, thumping and all sorts of noises, all coming from the rear. So obviously we were breaking down at that point. So I pulled over and looked under the car, and there was an enormous amount of grease on the right rear frame to the car, which obviously came out of something. So I tried to drive a little bit on the shoulder, and the noise was pretty heavy and strong. So I knew that we weren't going to go anywhere. And this is the first time I've actually ever broken down like this in my life. So kids are in the back. We got 3 kids, my wife, 105 degrees outside. Luckily, I just filled up the tank. So we called the SOS. You hit the button on the up top to call for help.
Yep.
And we're on the phone for, I don't know, 15 minutes, and nothing's happening. Like, he just keeps asking us questions. And I'm thinking to myself, like, are you going to do anything? Or are you just going to keep asking me questions? And then he was asking me, where are we? And I'm like, what do you mean, where are we? Like, don't you know where we're at? Because that's exactly what the system's supposed to do. And he said, well, the system's not working, and we're a third-party vendor, and we don't have the right infrastructure, some explanations. And so, but he was being really nice. It was just that the infrastructure wasn't there, and it wasn't. So he's trying to ask us where we are, and I'm like, we're in the middle of Oklahoma, somewhere between here and there. And I mean, there's no mile markers, there's no nothing. Pretty rural. So then I just shifted gears. I called the dealer back, talked to the manager. He immediately expressed that he wants to treat customers in the exact same manner as if he was in my position with family broken down on the side of the road. So he said, I'm going to get a tow truck out there. I'm going to have them tow a car out for you, so that you can get your stuff together. And then that took about 3 hours, but he took the initiative to get all of it in motion, which Jeep wasn't doing themselves through their system. And then I can't remember. So then I think after that is when I called Wagoner Services. And started talking to one of the employees there, Paige, and she was being nice. And at this point, it was almost like everything was in motion. The dealer was taking care of the tow. The dealer talked to Jeep as well. Jeep said they would cover the tow. They'd cover, any expenses, whatever it was, just, move quick. So tow truck showed up about, it took about 2.5 hours for them to get there. And then we put all our stuff in a Cherokee, which they had towed out for us, which is a whole nother animal, because you buy these nice big SUVs, and I don't care if it's Lincoln, Ford, Cadillac, none of them offer, rentals of the same caliber vehicle that you purchase, because nobody wants to spend the money to have them in their fleet to give to people like they act like they would. So anyway, getting back to the point. So we drove in, figured things out. It was a long day, trying to get ourselves settled. So the next morning, the dealer calls back, says, "Well, obviously, you didn't hit anything because the car is clean as a whistle, and it looks like the axle wasn't seated properly from the factory, and it slipped out of where it was supposed to, stay. And in turn, the spindle that goes into the differential was destroyed, and the CV boot ruptured, which is where all the grease came from. So, and then they said that bad news is that the part, the differential is back ordered for 6 weeks.
Oh my
So
God.
then they switched us over and put us in a Tahoe from Enterprise because we needed more room. And the Jeep Wagoneer department had clearly expressed A, that they were going to call me back, B, that they were going to cover everything, and I'm losing my train of thought here.
I'm waiting for the C, Josh. See, you had me at A and B.
Yeah, A, B, and then
It wasn't C for
that
like
they
see
were going
you
to
later.
reimburse the dealer for everything. So the dealer was going out on its own limb to pay for all of this stuff and absorb all these costs, and was going to get the money back from Jeep, which was a pretty good gesture because the dealers don't have to do that. It's not their responsibility.
Mhm.
It's responsibility. So anyway, a couple days later, which was I think was a Thursday, they said, so basically Paige was going to call me back, never called me back. I called in, left a message, wouldn't call me back. Called again, talked to someone, was getting just blanket robotic answers. And it was transferred to the buyback department because the part was going to be out for 6 weeks. So you're basically over 30 days, and it qualifies as a lemon for a buyback. So no one was communicating, other than the dealer calling me every day to even tell me something that nothing was happening. So then on Friday that week, I finally got a call from a lady in Detroit, which is in the buyback department, and they were drop shipping a new differential from the manufacturer so that it would get there the following week. In turn, it's no longer over the 30 days for the lemon. And they got all of the parts in a couple of days ago and got it fixed. And so they were and Jeep, the Wagoneer department, had also said in the beginning that they would ship it back to me once it was all fixed. But that was before they determined that it was a buyback. And then before that, they somehow miraculously decided to drop ship a part when it was originally back ordered.
Yep.
So at that point, so now the car's fixed. It's sitting there at the dealership. The Wagoneer department's not communicating with anybody, and the car's not moving because of politics or something. No reason for there not to be easy communication. They're just acting like there's nothing wrong. Just
let me jump in,
everything's
Josh.
fine.
This is Pops. I want Pops you to talk about lemon laws, and we've got so many chat messages, Josh, and so many people sending you heartfelt messages. This from Igor: lawsuit for poor quality control and putting the family in dangerous, unsafe situation. That could be a huge settlement if you can get a good lawyer. Pops, can you talk a little bit about lemon laws? And then I also want to bring up, it was only a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, Stellantis was in the news because they have the worst relationships with their suppliers. And we've heard more and more of vehicles, new vehicles that are having quality issues. Look, Ford even just issued another recall the other day for 100,000 vehicles. I'm curious, Pops, your take on Josh's experience. And obviously, Josh, we're happy that you're safe and your family's okay.
Well, all Stellantis is required to do is to repair the car under their warranty. Now, having said that, is there more that they should do? And the answer to that is absolutely. And Josh and I have been emailing back and forth. I suggested that there should be a trade assist, that the originating dealer should put a number on that Jeep as it sits with the miles on it, knowing that there's going to be a Carfax report that shows that it had a major service done. Stellantis should buy it back. The originating dealer should put a number that they think the vehicle's worth, and Stellantis should pay the difference to the dealer to make you whole, and they should put you in a brand new Jeep Wagoneer. That's the way it should work. That's the way I think if you push hard enough, it will work. I know Igor has mentioned any number of times, a substitution of collateral exchange. It's basically the same thing. But Stellantis they're trying to do the right thing to a degree. Through some of the emails you and I have had, they've offered you like $5,000 for your time because of all the issues. And that's like a partial step to doing what they really need to do. And what they really need to do is just take back the vehicle and replace it with a new vehicle, and just do a substitution of collateral with your bank that holds the loan on the current vehicle, and you should drive away happy. And then part of what they should do on the new car that they give you is to give you an extended warranty for at minimum 6 years, 100,000 miles. That's what I say should happen.
Yeah. So the lady I've been speaking to in Detroit, she's been better than any of the other people I've been speaking to, and very accommodating and doing the best that she can within the capacity she has, and has to go to her leadership as well. So there's obviously lots of chain of command here. What the other day I asked the dealership, how much will you give me for a trade-in? Because really, my wife doesn't even want to be in this car. Like, what if the wheel falls off, or something like that? There's a mental block. So he said 90 to 95,000, and I'm like, okay, it's been driven 24 hours, 500 miles on it, 22% below MSRP. Sounds great, and that's well outside the realm of what would be normal, let alone what normal trade assist consists of, which is 10 to 11% or something like that. So I've spent so much time just trying to advocate for myself. That, if I haven't even done what I've done, they probably wouldn't have even done what they've done so far. So it's just been an awful lot of brain damage. One more thing I do want to say, though, is that in the course of all this, it really became the worst vacation of my life. We wound up, we were going to visit family, have fun at the lake, things like that. So we had to make a pit stop in Oklahoma City because the car breaking down and all this. Then my wife winds up coming down with COVID on Thursday. And so I booked new rooms at a more comfortable hotel, and I had to get 3 rooms, one for the kids, one for me, one for my wife, so she could be isolated. And so we were there and then she went to the emergency room the next day because she needed fluids. So I'm taking care of the kids, dealers calling me constantly with updates, all these different dynamics playing out, hemorrhaging money with the kids wanting entertainment and food and different things like that, like we're on vacation. So it was definitely a lot of work, that's for sure, mentally and physically. So, and then we put the kids on a plane, and then my wife and I drove home with masks on.
Go,
Oh my
go ahead,
God.
a few days ago.
Josh, the only thing I will say to you is even though their normal trade assist might be 10 to 11% that it might cost them, in your particular case, on a $114,000 Jeep Wagoneer with 500 miles on it, the publicity that they could get, if it costs them 25%, it's still a bargain
Yeah,
based on
right.
what a lawyer would be able to get out of them because of this situation. So
Right.
even though the young lady you're speaking to in Detroit, says, well, I can only offer this, there's someone past her and someone past that, and they will, ultimately, if you push hard enough, or if you have the right attorney to push hard enough, they will do whatever needs to be done at whatever cost it might be to make this right. Because they would
Yep.
love nothing better than for you to be able to come back on our program and say, oh, by the way, Jeep stepped up. This is what they did for me to make it right, as opposed to just sharing what's going on now. And people out there are going to hear this and see this and go, well, God, what's Jeep doing for them? They're not really helping. So trust me,
Yep.
they've
Yep.
got more than 5,000 or 10,000 or even 25 or 30,000 that they could throw at this problem to make it go away.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And I mean, I do fairly well, so my time is obviously valuable, just like other people's executive time. And this has consumed me and my family for quite a while now. And I'm allowing them to go through some of their emotions of what they need to do, such as we got to get the car fixed first. We got to get the car shipped back to you first. Have to get it back into your possession if that's how I'm doing it. And I really don't want to have my blood pressure raised too much because
I don't blame you.
that's yeah.
Well,
Right.
Josh, you've got
But
the support of the YAA community, that's for sure. And obviously, Pops, you've been spending a lot of time with Josh going back and forth as well. So we're definitely on your team, and hopefully, even just tonight, hopefully someone out there heard this, and maybe we can push things forward for you. But keep us posted, and please, maybe it's a couple weeks from now, come back on the show. Let us know what happened. This has been so devastating to hear. Your trip sounds tragic, man, but I'm so glad everyone in your family is okay. And ultimately, this will get resolved. Let's just make sure it's the best possible outcome for you and your family.
If I may say one last thing, Josh, the sad reality is that what Jeep will end up doing, and the hoops that they will make you jump through to get to what they will end up doing, is what they should have done initially, and not forced you to jump through any hoops at all.
Exactly.
Yep.
So,
well, Josh, thanks for being a part of the tonight's show. All the best to you and your family, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
And you do have my email address, so keep me updated.
I do. I will. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Josh. Good luck to you, my friend.
Okay.
Wow. This goes back to one of the things that I always say, that typically when a manufacturer is given the opportunity to do the right thing on behalf of their customers, they choose not to. Okay. They leave it to the dealer to try and do it. And this is just where somebody at Stellantis should have said, my God, 500-mile Jeep Wagoneer. Okay. $114,000.
$114,000.
Okay, it needs 30 some $1,000s worth of warranty repairs already. Let's make his life, let's do an Ellen DeGeneres and just surprise the hell out of him and give him a brand new vehicle. Go have a vehicle drop shipped to that dealership where it is in Oklahoma and say, here, we're doing a substitution of collateral. Here's your new Jeep. Okay. And can you imagine what the value of that might have been? Because he would have been on here saying, do you know what Jeep did for me? I couldn't believe they did this. And like I say, when they're given the opportunity to do the right thing, they usually pass.
Yeah, completely understand, completely agree. The fact that they had $5,000 just dangling out there, Pops, in what circumstance do you do that? When you know you've messed up. This reminds me of the
Yes.
Ford dealer
Yes.
where Aaron, one of our community members, bought a Ford, except it was never actually delivered, but loan payments started because the contract to the bank already went through. That dealer was in deep poo-poo, as you like to
Yes.
say.
Yes.
And what they do, they ultimately took care of him. They had to do the right thing. It's the same situation here with Stellantis, man. $114,000 Jeep. Just take care of the guy.
You know that I used to manage a mini dealership, and I've told this story, and I'll tell it again because the people I work for don't own that dealership anymore. But there was a time, okay, and actually it was when your mother and I dropped your sister off at McGill University in Montreal for her freshman year, and I got back to the store after we dropped your sister off, and a salesperson had sold two cars to one family. Okay. And the salesperson told the people that the cars had alarms. Well, truth of the matter was neither car had an alarm. Okay. Because alarms are really rare on minis. But he did tell them that each car had an alarm and they didn't. And so the people were upset that they didn't have alarms and they wanted an alarms. And I looked at the two deals, and this is what, 8-9 years ago. This is quite some time ago. And I looked at the two deals, and between the two deals, I don't know, we made like $8,000. And I'm thinking, okay, so an alarm for each car. If it costs us $400 to have an alarm installed in each car, it's $800. Let's just put the alarms in the cars and be done with it and have happy customers. And the owner says to me, he says, we'll see if you can get the customer to pay half. So I talk to the customer and I talk him into paying half. And then the customer thinks about it and goes, why should I pay half? I wasn't the one that said the cars had the alarms. And so this ended up dragging on for like 4 or 5 months. And ultimately, do you know what we did? We installed
alarms.
We installed an alarm in each car at no charge to the customer. So why wait 5 months to do what you could have done on day one? Just do what you're going to ultimately end up doing. Do it in the beginning, and you actually get customer goodwill out of that. And a customer will say nothing but good things about you and be a customer for life. Do you know how many additional minis these people bought from us? I can help you with that. It looks a lot like this. Everything inside that circle. They never came back to do business with us again because we made them fight for what they should have had initially. And it's just so stupid to do it like. And this is a situation where Jeep could have just stepped up. They could have put out a press release saying what they did. Okay. And that would have been cheaper than what they're about to go through because, people will pick this up from our broadcast. It's not worth the aggravation and the bad publicity. It just isn't. But that's just me.
You are going to get the first ever
stamp of approval.
You just got your own stamp of approval.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah,
and I'm go actually. Yeah,
I was going to say, and I'm sure if Igor's still on the chat, that he would do this. He would have done the same. Just take care of it. It's cheaper to take care of it up front. You create a customer for life that way because you stand by what you say. Now, it's Pops, not just words.
Now, Pops, Scotty here in the chat says, preach. It's not just the auto industry. I work in construction. It happens all the time. This is the man, by the way, everybody. This is the man, my father, who literally live on the air about 30 minutes ago when I announced that we can now sell our California mechanical breakdown insurance, what's colloquially called an extended warranty. Well, we can only mark up $400 in California or $1,400. We chose $400, and we're doing our $150 discount. Live on the air, we never talked about. Said, well, why should everyone else pay $500 over wholesale price? They should pay $400. You are truly the customer advocate, man. You are the Joey says it right here. Ray equals truth. Yeah, just do the right thing from the start. You're right. We probably should make it $400.
I would.
We probably should.
If you sell 1,000 warranties this year, it's going to cost you $10,000. Okay, by making $100 or less, huh?
$100,000. That's
Oh, is that
$100,000.
well,
See, it's
whatever.
easy for you to do these things because you don't know how to do math.
Okay, but the point is, it's the right thing. The people in California shouldn't pay us less markup than the people in the rest of the country. And if you can only charge $400 over cost in California, then so be it. It's $400 over cost for everybody else. Everybody else shouldn't be punished. That's just me. And and yes, I should have had this conversation with you before the show, before you brought it up. But it just seems to me like, well, that's the right and fair thing to do. And yes, so yeah, here's a car guy who's actually a customer advocate. Yeah, I apologize for that. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% now. And we've talked about this on the show before. It held you back in your career. You could have advanced much further along in your career if you had not been such a customer advocate. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously people didn't grow up with those pops, but we lived a very middle class life because I think you put some firm boundaries up for what you were willing to do when you were in the business.
Well, yeah, I was in what most people consider to be a pretty miserable business for consumers to have to deal with. And I, in my small way, tried to make it more customer friendly, at least in the dealerships that I worked in. And so I could make incremental baby steps in how we did things. I couldn't change the whole industry. I couldn't necessarily always change the thinking of the owners that I worked for, but I could influence the thinking to a certain degree and change some of the things that we did. And I'm just a crazy guy in the sense that I see what's fair and what isn't fair. And I see the value of always trying to do the right thing. And one of the things that I don't quite understand is why it's so hard for people to do the right things. It shouldn't be hard. There should be rewards. We should reward the people that do try to do the right things for us, and oftentimes we don't.
100% pops, absolutely 100%. You do have influence over me, probably influence a lot how I think about what we're building here with YAA. Now let's come back to the lead story from today's show. I want to just bring this up. Simon says, check your math on the delinquent stats just so you don't create sensational headlines. You can't add them up. Example, DC rate is 23.4% for any loans greater than 30 days delinquent, which also includes 60 and 90-day delinquent. 60 plus delinquent is a subset of 30, and so on. Appreciate your solid and honest videos. Now, either we look like dummies today, or
which happens all the time.
So, Pops, let's do this really quick. If 23.4% is going to be essentially everyone, because anyone who's 30 plus days would be 30 or more, then that would mean 14.7, which represents 60 or more, and 11.3, which is 90 or more. That can't add up to be more than 23.4, can it?
Are
we doing the math?
In the way that I would do math, I would say it couldn't and it shouldn't, but maybe there's something that you and I just don't know. I don't know how 23.4 is an aggregate for all of it, if the individuals add up to be more than that.
Which regardless, guys, if we've got it right or we've got it wrong, I want to make everyone aware of something here, which is the historical norm. Okay, so if DC is at 23.4%, which is number one on the list, whether they're at 49.4 or 23.4, let us please just take a peek at what the historical norms are. This is data from 2019 and Q3 and Q4 of 2020. 1.75% was the national 30 to 59 day delinquency, or a number of people that were late. In DC right now, it's at least 23.4, maybe less, maybe more, kind of all over. Look, I mean, just to put it into perspective here, we aren't in the business of wanting to create sensational headlines that are misrepresenting information. Regardless, there's an incredible increase right now in the delinquency rate. at all levels and in all.
And even in the best state in Utah, where it was 4.5%, that's 2.5 times or almost 2.5 times more. And so there's I always say this, I'm not a bright guy, and apparently I prove that quite often, that I'm not a bright guy, but that doesn't bode well. If it's 2.5 times more than it had been, okay, historically, then these numbers that we're seeing now are staggeringly scary. It points to the fact that more and more people are having more and more difficulty in taking care of all of their credit obligations, because I am sure if they're behind on their car, they're behind on their credit card, or they might be behind on their rent or their mortgage. So it points to a much larger problem, I believe.
And let's be very clear. Again, thank you to everyone in our community who's trying to help
Yes.
us make sure we don't look like dummies. But again, in the best states, we are at 4.5 and 4.6% of all auto loans over 30 days delinquent. Again, the most recent data from kind of like pre-pandemic was 1.75%. So
Yes.
again, regardless, no matter how you slice it, we are seeing an increase in loans that are in hardship. And we even, Dad, have from Tom Dukes here, who is in the industry. He says delinquency is on fire. I work for a dealership. Repos are running wilder than Hulkamania in the 80s, Dad.
And I really don't want to say this, but I do remember Hulkamania. I remember the Hulkster.
Melissa, it's good to see you here in the chat. We will never have Massachusetts. I just want to be very real. We will probably never have Massachusetts. Maybe someday, Melissa. Maybe someday. I'm working on it. I'll do my best. All right, Pops. All right. Let's call it a night. Thank you for doing a Saturday night show. This was quite fun. It had been a month. So thank you to everyone who joined us here tonight. Please, please, please. The next few weeks, I feel like, are going to be critical if our prediction, if our proclamation that waiting 60 to 90 days is the best financial decision to make when buying a new car or used car. The next few weeks are going to either tell us that we made the right proclamation or we were off right again. So please stick with us here over the next couple of weeks. Plus, my birthday's on July 22nd. I would love to maybe even have a birthday stream if you're up for it.
Well, that's a Friday. So we could either do it Friday or we could do it Saturday. And hell, that reminds me, I need to go birthday present shopping. But I don't know why. I give to you and your sister and your brother-in-law and your
Stream's
girlfriend.
breaking up. The stream's breaking
Yeah.
up.
all year long. I give all year long. I don't necessarily just wait for birthdays to give. So, but
yes,
I want to thank you for doing the live stream. It was I have desperately missed this over the last 4 weeks. I've said it before and I will say it again. Being part of YAA, doing what we do at my age gives me a reason for being. And when we weren't doing this on Saturday nights, I didn't have a real good reason for being on a Saturday night. So. Although last Saturday night I was having dinner with you in Montreal, so it was all right.
Let's see. Do I have like a sentimental? Give me a second. Do I have a sentimental?
I doubt it.
1 second. 1 second.
Yeah, that's not sentimental. No.
No, but I had a card.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Let's just say goodnight and remind the folks that we will be back here on Monday on the Ray and Zach channel. On the Ray and Zach channel at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific for news that you can use from YAA. We're there Monday through Friday at noon until 12:30, Monday through Friday. So, and Cass, thank you so very much for the super sticker. I'm doing my super sticker dance.
There it was. That looked quite nice.
Yeah.
Have a great night, guys. Love you, Pops. I will talk to you in the morning.
Absolutely love you, honey. I'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Tommy. Yeah. Thank you, Tommy.
All right, guys. Everyone have a great night. See you, Pops.
Yep.